If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plumb. Let's get started. All right, welcome everyone today. Thank you for joining us. And we are joined again today for another part in the series of copywriting with our special guest, Mr. Carlos Redlich from Arizona. Don't let him fool you. He's a country boy at heart, but he can write some mean copy while he's out there in the woods, you know, shooting guns and milking cows. I don't know. You milk any cows out there?
I haven't milked. I mean, we got cows out there, but I haven't milked them.
Okay. All right, cool. So today we're going to be talking about email sequences that you can use in your business. So these are really going to be four main types of different sequences you can use on email and how that applies. And then, of course, we are running this live as well. So if anybody has any questions, throw them in the chat. Or if you want to come off mute at the end, but we'll kind of run through this and let Carlos take the reins for us today.
Sweet. Hey, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. Thank you guys again for having me here. Just like what he was saying, we're going to be going over some email sequences and kind of give you some templates that you can use as well. So remember, if for some reason you haven't gotten any of these slides yet, I'll give you the link again after the presentation, but make sure you get the slides because I've included some templates in here that you can use and modify for your own business. So the first thing I kind of want to go over really is what the purpose of these sequences are, because a lot of times we can build an email list, or anytime you can build an email list, but if you're only doing broadcast emails, which means, every day you want to write an email, you write it manually, you send it out, and you have to do that every single day, like a chore or a task or something like that. But you can automate a lot of this stuff, and you can do that with pretty much any autoresponder software, whether that's ActiveCampaign or Aweber or GetResponse or anything. But the purpose of a lot of the email sequences, especially in the beginning when we go, and we'll go over what like a welcome sequence is and stuff, but especially in the beginning, it's geared towards getting people to know, like, and trust you. And we call that the KLT factor in the marketing world, the know, like, and trust you factor, because if they know you, like you, and trust you, there's a higher chance that they're going to want to work with you or book an appointment and take the next step and whatever that next action is. So we're always trying to think of how do we get them to know us? How do we get them to like us? And how can we get them to trust us? Well, one of the things I like to do to increase trust, and really the know, like part as well, is if you're sending people not just emails saying, hey, go book a call here, hey, go book a call here, and it's really repetitive. But one of the things you can do is if you've spoken on stage, or if you've done any, webinars, or you can even do your own little video training on stuff. If you tell people, hey, here's a real cool training showing you, the top 3 things you need to look at before buying a house. And this doesn't have to necessarily be a video. It could be a PDF that you write, essentially just a resource that you create. But the fact that it's something that you've created, that you're the author of, is going to help create that trust between you and these new subscribers that have come into your world. So you always want to think of that KLT factor when you're blasting out an email, because if it's not getting them to know you, like you, or trust you, it should be pushing them to take an action. But if it's not doing any of these things, it's not the best email. And the reason I wanted to kind of say that is because I've noticed that, I don't know if it's a trend or what, but just in general, and tons of different industries, people hear that you want to build a relationship with your email list. And it's 100% true. That's what the KLT factor is for. But one of the things that I've started seeing is that people will just start giving out rants in their emails. Like, I couldn't stand it when I went to the supermarket today and this happened. And sometimes they'll have a little lesson at the end that says, and so that's when I learned that, I should always get this kind of loan or whatever it might be, right? But if you're always ranting in your emails, or you're trying to be very polarizing in your emails, because trust me, that is a strategy that's taught, you have to ask yourself, is it going to get them to trust me more? And if the answer is no, you want to really refrain from doing that stuff. So you want to be personal, you want to have personal stories, but make those stories have some kind of moral. Think about it as if you were talking to a kid or a child, or somebody that you want to really help them get. If you're trying to get a point across, well, one of the best ways to get points across is by telling a story and having a moral at the end where they see the point and they're like, that makes sense. And when you give people that aha moment and they start saying, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense, you're the one who gave them that epiphany. And if you're the one who did it, you're going to increase that level of trust. Right? I see somebody just tried coming into the room, so I'm just going to hit admit. I hope that's cool, Levi.
I got you. I got you covered. You keep doing your thing. Stay on flow. I'll monitor.
Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and now talk about 4 types of email sequences. Now, there's different types of sequences, obviously, but we're going to talk about the main 4 that I usually see in most businesses and the ones I primarily like to focus on. The first part is kind of like what we were just talking about a little. It's the welcome sequence. So this is when someone first comes to your, first opts in or first gives you their information. These are the first series of emails that they're going to get. And I'm a big fan of doing 7 emails. Why? Well, it's because we hit them every single day of the week. There is some kind of it's like an emotional thing. I used to not like mailing people every day because I was like, God, I'm going to get so annoying. They're going to really hate me. But the truth is they're not. And the chances of them opening every single email are very slim. And because if you think about it, most open rates for emails are about 15 to 20%. Some people are way better and some people are a little bit less. But on average, usually 15, 20% of the people who give you their contact information are actually going to open the email. So you do want to email them frequently, which means every single day for 7 days, especially that first sequence, because you never know which email they're going to read, but you also want to just stay in front of them because they're getting thousands and thousands of emails every single week. So you want to make sure that you're always popping up on top. Something I've started testing, I don't have it in my notes here. It's a test, so I don't have any hard, crazy data on it yet. But one of the things I started noticing is that if I blast out my emails around like 7 in the morning, it gets a lot of opens, and the click-through rates don't necessarily change too much, but it gets more opens. And I'm not sure why, but I assume it's because maybe that's when people are waking up and they check their phone before they go to work or they go to the office or whatever it is they're doing. And it's just one of the first emails that they're getting, right? This is what I'm assuming because I'm just trying to figure out why it's starting to go up. But that's why I tested it originally. I was like, well, people are, usually waking up depending on what their jobs are around that time. So let's see if this increases open rates. And it did. It so far is doing it, at least. I've only been doing this for a few weeks, and it's doing well. And you can do I forget what the term is, but essentially you can make it so if you want to schedule an email to go out at 7 a.m., you can schedule it so it goes out at 7 a.m. across all time zones for people on your list. Because obviously if you send it at 7 a.m. Eastern, that's, like 654, maybe like 4 a.m. in California or something, right? So it doesn't work out. So you want to make sure you have that ability to do that if you want to test it. But that's again, that's something that it's a little thing, but all these little things add up. But the main thing you want to take away from a welcome sequence is that first week is designed to really make them fall in love with you and really get them to start creating a stronger connection with you, right? And so one of the things that you can do is when you're planning out your week, right? And here's a template again that I've used, and you can modify this for your business. Again, this is if you want to go check out the slides, you'll see the link at the end of this. You can get them for free. So, but make sure you use this template or modify it for what you're doing. But one of the things you can do when you're mapping out your sequence is you want to create a list of tips and stories that are ideally going to convey some kind of specific message. So what I mean by that is if you're trying to say, Make sure you have all of your paperwork for whatever it is done, first thing. And if that's the point you're trying to get across, you want to show kind of a horror story of what happens when that isn't done. And so each one of those stories is included in a single email. You want to make sure that you're not combining 2 stories, 3 stories, or anything in a single email. It's only one story per email, one purpose, one point, one message per email. When you start combining it, and you get on too many tangents and things, less people are going to respond, and it's just going to have a bigger or a smaller readership rate. Less people are going to be actually reading what you're saying, right? So again, just make sure that when you do this, you have everything: one story, one purpose, one message for each email. And then again, when you're creating these types of things, the way I map it out is I just have what do I try? Email 1, what's my goal? What's the message I really want to convey? And then I put what's the story I want to use for this. And that's how I outline my emails. And then I go back and I actually write them out.
Allow me to take a quick break to remind you that we have very important links in the description below. If you want the full story of how we closed over $1 million in commissions our first year and over $2.3 million in commissions our second year, check out the first link. Also, you have the link to our #1 Amazon best-selling book, Passive Prospecting. Last, if you enjoy this podcast and you're a giving person, leave a 5-star review, please. Now back to the episode.
Okay. The next one that you're going to want to have is an onboarding email sequence. Now, there's the type of onboarding when someone has already gotten the end result. So if they are looking to purchase a house, they want to work with you, then there's like 2 types of onboarding sequences, right? So you have an onboarding sequence when they first say, yeah, I'm looking for a house and I want you to help me find it, for example. And then you can put them through a sequence that it prepares them for all of the next steps that they're going to have to take and what you guys are going to be doing together. And then there's the other sequence, which I think a lot of people forget about just across the board, whether it's in real estate or in the coaching industry or anything. But once somebody has gotten what they want, let's say they purchase the house and you're kind of done with them, and if you're like a real estate agent or something, well, it wouldn't necessarily hurt to have a 5-day sequence or a 7-day sequence or something like that, saying, hey, congrats on buying the new house. Here's 7 tips over the next 7 days that are going to will kickstart your home experience or whatever, right? And so let's say the first thing is, make sure you get your Wi-Fi set up. Here's some of the Wi-Fi people we suggest for internet. Make sure you've got by the on the 7th day, you could say, make sure you've got your housewarming party set up. Here's our housewarming tips, things like that, because all you've got to do is write it once, put it in an email autoresponder, and it's automated. You don't have to think about these things. That's the beauty of the automated sequences, is you just set this up one time, and now you're delivering great customer service before they actually buy a house, after they buy a house, the entire way through. But you're not manually doing anything. It's all happening on autopilot, so that way everything's easy for you and the experience is great for the person on the other side. Okay. I think we talked about so this is basically
Carlos.
Yes.
If I can just jump in here real quick and just re-emphasize that this does not take you time. This makes you time. Just the same thing as we preach with making video. Video does not make you time, or does not take you time. It makes you time. So people always look at, again, this goes into investing, whatever it is you do. People usually look at today's cost versus tomorrow's value. Writing out, taking an hour or 2, or even if it took you 3 or 4 hours one day to write out a complete email sequence for your clients whenever they come into when they initially come into your funnel, once they've bought a house, once, post purchase, all of that is saving you so much time. Just like we talk about, we have a whole process as we move people through our pipeline. So whenever they first reach out to us, or if we refer somebody to a lender, if you have to do anything twice in your business, you should have a system, process, campaign, trigger, automation, sequence, something of that nature in your business. So I've never written a second email to refer somebody to the lender. People ask us for referral lenders every single time. If they want to be referred to our lender, we drag and drop them in our CRM, and that tag, that sequence automatically fires off an email that we wrote one time that explains everything. Now it's customized to the client because the CRM customizes it to the client, just the same thing as your email sequence will do. It'll customize it to the client, but all the information is the same. And so that is saving you, and not just saving you, but making you time. Because think about, if you tried to do this, if you've ever written, if you're writing a brand new email every time you refer somebody to your lender, that's a huge waste of time. It should be written out one time and it's saved. If you don't have a CRM or something like that, save it as a template. So you just copy and paste and reuse over and over again. But still, even going to do that, to find that template, copy and paste, then type out the, customization on your end, that's still way too much time that you should be spending on that. It should just be a very simple process. Same thing with these.
I love it. 100%. Yeah. I mean, the way you scale too, just in general, is you just got to have automated systems in place so nothing falls apart and you're not there, as the bottleneck. So that's what these sequences, just like what Levi's talking about, it's exactly what it's designed to do. And so one of the sequences here that I wanted to share next with you is for people that no show, right? So this could be whether they no show for a phone call or an in-person meeting or a showing or whatever it might be. But you want to have a sequence that goes out to these folks, because there's tons of different reasons they may not have shown up. I mean, they may just not have been interested, but we want to assume there might be some other reasons, right? And so I listed out some possible reasons for no-shows, and I'll explain why this is a good thing. So they got caught up at work. They forgot to put it in the calendar. They had a family death. They were sick. They were in a car crash. They double booked for the same time somewhere else. These are all essentially possible reasons for them not showing up. And what they also are is possible topics for each email. So we have here 1 email, 2 emails, 3, 4, 5, 6 emails at least right here, just with these reasons, right? And so it's not to say that they absolutely got in a car crash, but an email could be, hey, hey, so-and-so, and this, you may want to elaborate a little bit more, but, I'm freestyling this, but essentially you could say, hey, so-and-so, I saw that you missed our appointment on this day and this time, and I wanted to make sure everything was okay. Most people are, really excited about checking out this house, and so I just wasn't sure what happened. And I know that sometimes crazy things can happen when you're driving from long distances, so not sure where you're coming from exactly, but I'm hoping you didn't get in any car crash or any trouble on the way here. If you did, let me know. I'll send a tow truck to help you out and some ambulance, and heck, I'll go there and help you out myself. Let me know if you're okay, and if you are okay, maybe just something else popped up, no worries, just click this link and reschedule for a time that's convenient for you. Really hope everything's okay. Talk soon, Carlos. P.S. What's the best address to send a get well soon card or some shit? Or where, if you are in the hospital, what's your room number so I can send you some flowers, right? It's a little exaggerated, but it's a little funny too. And it's going to get people to say, wow, this person went all out. They're saying they're going to send me flowers to my hospital and like an ambulance and a tow truck for my car if needed. Now, chances are they're not in a car crash. I've never had someone say, yes, I'm in a car crash, and they responded back to me and say, yeah, send that ambulance, because chances are all that's kind of happening already. But the point is, you're addressing all of these reasons, even if they're a little ridiculous, because it's going to get them to say, yeah, I should reschedule, right? You could actually make it super ridiculous. I did this a few years ago when the US came out and published, it's funny, it's not like even bigger news now, but like, I forget what newspaper, it was some major newspaper, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was in 2020, even during like the craziness. They said something about UFOs being real or not. They said that there was UFOs, and the military has like footage of UFOs. They're not saying it's aliens. They're just saying it's legit, an unidentified flying object. So I used that in one of my emails, and I said, hey, whatever news station or whatever said that UFO, the government is admitting that there's UFOs, and they've got all these different videos of UFOs flying all over the United States. And I was wondering if maybe you weren't able to show up to the call because you ran into one of these UFOs and they abducted you. If they did abduct you, I'm sure you're not going to be able to respond back. But if they didn't abduct you, click here and reschedule for a time that's convenient for you. Something along those lines, right? But I used something silly like an alien abduction to get in front of these people who no showed and get them to kind of start that conversation again and get them back to booking a call. So again, you just want to make sure, just like the welcome sequence and just like pretty much any sequence, you have one purpose or one story and one thing you're really trying to address in each email. You don't want to have too many of them blended together, any of them blend together. It's just one per email. And then the same with the text sequence, but the text sequence here is actually very short. You don't actually do that much. Sometimes I use it as a reference text. And what I mean by that is usually these are like 1 sentence or 2 sentences long, nowhere nearly as long as like a full-blown email. But what I'll do is I'll say, hey, so-and-so, Carlos here, I just sent you a crazy email about aliens, abduction, and you. It's really important that you check it out. Let me know if you got it, right? Something like that. Because now it's like, oh crap, let me go check that email. So that's what we call like a reference ad. It's like, hey, catching your attention so that you can go and check this email out because I'm talking about this alien stuff, right? So that's another way of getting in front of people and making sure that you're recouping these no-shows and rescheduling them. Now, some of those texts can have obviously a direct link, and you say, hey, I saw you missed your call. Hope everything's okay. Just go here to reschedule. That's fine. That's very standard. But if you're going to be sending 6 or 7 of these, it can get a little repetitive if that's like your only message, which is why combining some kind of story or possible reason that they didn't show up in each message, it's what's going to help make this not so copy and paste like, right? Because if you just keep saying, hey, I saw you missed your call, just following up, hey, are you still interested? Hey, what happened? Right? It's like the exact same thing. It just gets a little repetitive and annoying. Okay, the next one that I want to go over is called a cold subscriber re-engagement sequence. Now, what is a cold subscriber? A cold subscriber is anyone who hasn't opened or clicked an email in the last 90 days, but they've been on your list for at least 30 days, right? So I'm sure you guys have a bunch of these. A lot of people do. I know I do. And so what you want to do is you create a segmented list of all of these people who have not opened anything yet, and you send them an email. I don't know. These people keep coming in. It's like impulse that I want to admit them, Levi. Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to, but I'm just like, man, I just click it. It's right there. But so with these people in your autoresponder, again, it could be Active Campaign, Aweber, or GetResponse. Pretty much all of these do. I think every one of them does this. All you have to do is create a segment from the people who have not opened or clicked your emails in the last 30 or 90 days. And then you send them an email. I think that's actually what this part 2 is about. You essentially send them what's known as a break of email. And this is like a poop or get off the pot type of email where it's like, hey, are you still interested in this? Is a very famous email. I forget who created it, but it's like, hey, you signed up for this. Are you still interested? And then your name. Just reply back yes if you are, right? So it gets people to reply back and gets them to open it, but it's a way to re-engage them. And then what you're doing as you're blasting these people, because obviously if you're mailing only people who are cold, or not, when I say cold, they've been on your list, so the definition of it, or our definition, they've been on your list but just haven't engaged with you. When you segment them and just start blasting emails to them, what's going to happen is you're going to see obviously a very low open rate, like a 1% maybe, or 2% if you're lucky, right? Maybe it'll be more, hopefully, but it's going to be a very low open rate because you're only targeting people that aren't opening. But what is happening now is, now that they've opened that email, they're going to go and start transferring over to that engaged list because now they've opened your email within the last 30 days. They just opened that one. And so that's a way to re-engage them so that you start having more people opening your actual emails, not just these cold resubscriber or cold subscriber emails. But it also starts getting your emails to deliver to their inbox, because sometimes what happens is maybe your emails for this segment of people are going to the promotion folder. It's just getting buried down. They're just not seeing it. But now that they've opened it, they're going to start seeing it again, right? So that's something that you can do to just reactivate a lot of these people. And for the ones who don't open anymore and they're not responding to this cold subscriber re-engagement thing, what I do is the short answer is I delete them from my autoresponder, but I save the list because the list is still valuable. It's just you're going to be paying money. If you have like 20,000 people in your database, but only about 4,000 or 5,000 of them are active, and you're doing a bunch of cold subscriber re-engagement sequences, and you've gone through it. Well, if there's going to be a lot of them that simply are not responding anymore, they're just dead weight. And so you're probably paying a few $100 more to have 20,000 person list, even though only 4,000 or 5,000 are your real subscribers. So I just save all of those people. Like I download that entire list, so I still have it, but I delete them from my autoresponder, so that way you're also saving money. And when you do that, you'll notice that everything about your email performance will go up. Your opens, your clicks, everything will go up, because you're essentially cutting the fat, trimming the fat, killing that dead weight. So this is another sequence, though, that you want to do every 30 to 60 days. You just want, or not every 30 days, you want to target the people who haven't opened, like I said, from the 30 to 90-day period. And I like to do this once every couple of weeks, because that way it just kind of keeps the list as fresh as possible. And I'm always cleaning it and making sure it's really the best in the best I don't want to say best way, but it's really going to give us the best results that way, because you're just keeping the list clean. And then we also, again, here's a little template that you guys can use. So make sure you do that. Check this out. Again, these are little Google Docs, so you can just click here, edit in here, probably just copy and paste into another Google Doc and edit from there. And if you want to access these slides, we'll open this up for questions. But if you want to access these slides, just go here, americasbestcopywriter.com/slides, americasbestcopywriter.com/slides. Go there, put in your info, and then you'll just see, all the slides on the next page. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. And okay, I see some comments in here, so let me start looking.
Hey, yeah. What's it going to take, Carlos, for you to become the world's best copywriter?
It's going to take probably another $20 to purchase the domain if it's still available.
120, there you go.
I love it. All right, so Jennifer message says, makes sense to embed a video with the bomb. Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure when you had messaged this, but yes, putting little videos in there is pretty cool. If you can get people to click on it. One of the things I actually like to do is not necessarily include a video in there, is I'll include an image of a video with like a play button on it, and then make it a clickable image, so that when they click on it, it goes to the video or to the opt-in or wherever you're trying to send them. So it's kind of clickbait essentially, and you usually get like 5x more clicks. The only thing with that is you don't want to include images in like every one of your emails, because that tends to essentially get your emails thrown into the promotions folder, the spam folder, and so less people will see it. But if you sporadically but if you kind of sprinkle it into your email sequences every once in a while, it's a great way to get nice boosts and clicks. So one of the things I do is I test out like a sequence of emails, and I see which one performs best out of all of them, let's say 5 or 7 of them. And then the one that performs best in regards to opens and click-throughs and sales, obviously, but the first metrics I'm looking for are like opens and clicks really. If that's kind of doing well, then I start looking at how can I improve the best one. I'm not trying to improve the worst one. I'm trying to improve the best one to get even more juice out of it. So then I'll start doing that trick with a picture that looks like a video. So when they click on it, it takes them over to the next page. But that's kind of how I would go about it. But that's really, really good, Jennifer, that you're thinking that way about including those Loom videos in there. Okay, Coach Bill says, what have you found to be the best system to automate these emails going out? So this is... I don't know if there really is a best, because everyone has their own best and the one they're most comfortable with. I'll tell you the one I use personally is Active Campaign, and I like that one the best after using, I've used MailChimp, Aweber, and GetResponse, and Active Campaign. And Active Campaign for me has been the best. I feel like, I know for sure my emails with GetResponse weren't delivering to the inbox as much. And then as soon as I transferred to Active Campaign, my performance just went up, and I started delivering more right there. So I would, that's what I would suggest, Active Campaign. But again, they all pretty much do the same type of thing, but Active Campaign is the one that I like the most. So if you guys have other questions, I love this. Somebody else is already on here. So you guys are checking out the slides already. So those are the 2 questions that were submitted, the 2 comments that were submitted in the the meeting box thing here, the chat box here. Is there any other questions here that you guys want to ask or go over?
Well, I wanted to re-emphasize kind of what you said at the beginning. The simple format here, what I believe Carlos was saying, is hook, story, offer, right? So what's your hook? What's the story? And then what's your offer? What's your call to action? And it was funny. One of my friends, Chris, posted this yesterday, or he reposted a reel from Ryan Serhant. And the funny thing is Chris was like, his point was hook, story, offer. Well, go back to Ryan's reel, and what did he do? He started out talking. He's like getting out of his car. So he's got motion, walking into the office, probably on a Sunday. And he starts telling a story. First thing he starts out with is, whenever I was selling, $2,000 apartments in Koreatown, 14 years ago in real estate, I started having I was struggling, I was going through these hardships. I sucked. I was terrible. Basically, immediately that's the hook, right? Imagine 14 years ago when I started out and I was completely terrible. I was thinking about getting out of real estate. And then he went and built up more of the story, started to just study and learn and educate myself. At the time, there was nobody really there to show me the ropes. The only coaches in the business, it seemed like, were from the 80s, talking about, and weren't even in the business anymore. And so here I am. And then, at the end, he's like, and by the way, I've got a Black Friday sale for my courses. Click the link below, and you can get the best deal you've ever gotten. And it was a 7-minute video, a 7-minute reel on his, on his Instagram going into that. But it's a very simple format: hook, story, offer. Where did he start? It's the same as beginning, middle, and end, right? Hook, story, offer. So you got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end to structure that. That's something that Casey Neistat talked about, one of probably the best storytellers on YouTube. And, he made a video about that. And he said it's really the simple framework of beginning, middle, and end. And so you think about the structure and how you want to have that conversation and start that out. And we've talked about this as well, is that each and every one of you on here make 100 pieces of content a day. You make 100 pieces or 100 emails a day, figuratively, for the fact that everything that you do throughout the day is there's some story involved in it. It's just your choice whether you decide to document that or not. Now, are you going to document that through video? Are you going to document that by sending yourself a voice memo? Are you going to document that by writing it down? And a lot of people have their learning style, either visual, auditory, kinesthetic, readers and writers. So maybe you do things different. Maybe you have to leave yourself a voicemail. But the thing is that if you're looking to get your message out, whether that's on video or on email or, through this, that all comes down to copy. I mean, video is copy. It's just maybe you don't actually write it down. It's in your head and you spill that out. But if you're going throughout your real estate day, and if you show 4 homes, I mean, let's just say you go, and that's easy to probably show, if you're out working with a buyer, at least you're showing probably anywhere from 4 to 7 homes, ideally. And so those 7 different homes provide 7 different, at a minimum, 7 different stories. Now, when you come out of that house, when you're driving to the next property, like, that's your choice. It's your choice. Do I stop and do I say, hey, man, I just walked into this house and I'm working with the client, just walked into this house. What I immediately noticed whenever I walked into it was this, this, and this. Now, what I did was I was able to help my client understand that, it's not a big deal, or this is a major issue, or don't ever buy a home that's like this as soon as I walk in the front door. And so, that's your hook, your story, and then your offer, and your call to action is by the way, if you're out, thinking about buying your first home, or you're in the market to purchase another home or your second home or rental property, whatever the case may be, message me below, reach out. And you want to make sure that you don't run into these types of issues, or you're looking for the right things, or you're working with the right person to help be an additional set of eyes for what you're doing. So every house you show is a minimum of at least one piece of content. And you could probably break that up into 2, 3, 4, or 5 pieces of content. When you go to list a home, and you go on that listing presentation, hey, I was just working with a client, talking to them about listing their home. They mentioned they were interviewing for the real estate agents, but I'm the one that walked out with the signed piece of paperwork. Why is that? Well, this is what I talked about, or this is what I did, or, this is how I differentiate myself from other agents. Now, also, you want to think about your audience. That's probably geared more towards an agent-centric audience versus a client, but you have to word that accordingly of, this is how I set myself apart from different agents. And so when you go on that listing appointment, you walk out of there, you probably have 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of content, or 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of a story that could be documented on email or video. And so every single day that you interact, and you, even on this call today, if you're sitting there writing down notes, this is something that if you're trying to grow your team or expand your team and you're trying to attract other agents, then this type of content that we're discussing right now is attractive to them, and say, hey, I was in a meeting today with this weird guy named Carlos, who's a little hermit from Arizona, and just writes copy in his basement. No, actually, he's not. He's a really cool guy. But, I was on this training call today with one of the top copywriters in the country, and he made some very specific points that really resonated with me and how I could improve my business. And here, boom, 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 that's a reel for today. Now think about what's the next thing you're going to go on, and what's the next training you're going to attend, and what's the next home you're going to show, and what's the next phone call you have with the client. If a client calls you, just like our phone number is not directed to me, but for some reason, like last week, the CRM malfunctioned for some reason, and I got a call to my cell phone, and I answered it, and it was somebody that is a client, looking to move. And I had a 25-minute conversation with them. I wasn't going to say, oh, well, you're talking to the wrong person. Let me get you to a team member. I just took that opportunity to have that conversation. I turned that into a couple of pieces of content right after that because of my discussion, which was, number one, what was my question? And one of my top questions is why move now? Why aren't you concerned about interest rates? And that's what I wanted to know, point blank. And, he said, no, I'm not. It's the right time for me to move my family. What I know is I can't afford to buy a home in California, period. Dallas area is a lot more affordable. I can get a lot more home. I work with the airline Southwest, based out of Dallas anyways. So I can transfer over there. And I know that, I can refinance later. It may not be ideal right now, but still, even with interest rates in this market, it's still cheaper for me to buy a home in Texas than it is in California. So, and so that conversation was a story, that I was able to convert into a piece of content, which was, I was talking to a client, a client just called in looking to buy a home, and isn't nobody buying a home right now, right? Isn't everybody scared and the market's dried up and nobody's out there, but yet we're still getting phone calls every single day of people looking to buy homes. Why is that? Well, here's the deal. This gentleman was from California, and that's how I started the piece of content, and was able to tell that story and regurgitate it from that phone call. Now, if I broke down, and the thing is that, my CRM records phone calls. So I could go back and re-listen to that phone call, even though it was 25 minutes. That was the main story I took from it, but I could probably go back and pull 2 or 3 more stories from that conversation. And then guess what? I could type out, not only did I make a video about it, I could type out an email. I got a call from a client just yesterday looking to make a move. And I thought nobody was moving in this marketplace, especially with these interest rates. It's crazy, right? The market is crashing. The prices are dropping. Interest rates are sky high, the highest they've ever been in history. Or wait, no, that's not true either. But it was my curiosity got me. Why would somebody call in this current market that everywhere you see is hellfire and brimstone, and, nobody's making a move, but yet we're still getting calls? Well, let me tell you a little bit about Steve. And Steve's from, and then you could turn that into an email. So, everybody on here, every agent encounters, or lives 100 pieces of content a day. Again, it's your decision on whether you document that or not. And it really will surprise you, I believe, how much you can build up in a short time frame. just by being relentless. Somebody asked me the other day, Levi, how do you keep up with your files and all your, I said, well, as soon as I hang up, like as soon as this call gets done, guess what I do? It automatically downloads to my computer as a file, and I rename it. Carlos Redlich, copywriting secrets, blah, 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 boom. I immediately move it into a folder that my team has access to, and they know my job is to keep that folder full of content, right? And it's their job to convert it. But also, I can easily go into Trello and I can type in there. Now I type in there, Carlos Redlich, copywriting secrets, email sequence, boom. Put that in a Trello board. Guess now they know exactly what to look for. And whenever they pull that content and start chopping this up and reusing it, it all starts on the process. But the thing is that I have to be relentless about documenting my day, which is saves me a lot of time from just having to create very specific content as well. So if you're struggling with that time frame to sit down, or you get camera shy, or whatever the case may be, whatever comes up, and you say, okay, well, let me just set something up right here. And I didn't do it right this second, but setting up that phone on a tripod right next to you, vertical format, hitting record. So that's the other thing, I talk about this. If you look on my Instagram, you'll see a lot of, I'm hardly ever addressing the camera directly because I document so much conversations, coaching calls, training calls, out and about at events, things like that. All of it gets documented. So I don't have to worry about doing that. And you're doing that every single day with your clients. But it's just taking that extra moment. It's at the end of the day, in between those calls, driving, instead of cranking up the radio and listening and jamming out to music, or, hey, I believe in listening to podcasts. I believe in the library on wheels, but maybe in between clients, you don't do that. You hit record, you get a nice little phone stand in your car, to record vertical. You hit the record button and you say, by the way, yeah, just got done showing this home. And I tell you what, this is what I found. This is what the problem we ran into. Oh, huge problem we ran into as soon as we walked in the door. This is something that you need to keep an eye out for anytime you're looking at a house. As soon as I walked in this house, this was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. As soon as I walked out of this house, I noticed the biggest crack. And I tell you what, so all these types of things, that happens every single day, and you're going to encounter different experiences. And if you start looking at how do I capture this, you're going to start looking at things in a different manner too, instead of just, oh, okay, I'm going to show another house, to this person for the 85th time. It should be, oh, great, this is the 85th time I get to, make a new reel or a new piece of content. And I walk in there, and now I'm looking at, what can I learn from this experience? Because guess what? We get in the motion and we get in the cadence and we get into the situation where this all starts to become second nature. But now every time you walk in there, if you're like, all right, if you play a game with yourself and say, man, how many reels can I pull out of this house, out of showing this house? And if you have to make a note on your phone, if you have to take a little pad and paper to write it down, and the client's going to be like, oh, what are you doing over there? Oh, I'm just taking a few notes, it's just something I do. And then, but think about this, that could even be something that after, instead of bugging, the client the whole time they're viewing the house, you write down 4 or 5 things that are potential real topics, but you step out of the house and you say, well, what'd you think? And they're like, yeah, I don't. Okay. And you say, well, look, I took some notes here and I noticed really some key things that were really good. And I noticed some things that, man, I don't know if this is the best house to buy. Let's make sure we keep an eye out for this, and then you could even go down your little list and say, and think about what that means to your client. How would they feel if you actually had notes and said, here's the pros and the cons of this house? And then at the end of the day, it makes it a lot easier to kind of run through that. But then you've got 4 or 5 pieces of content that you could go out and record. And if you don't have time to do it right there in the car, or you don't want to record when you're cruising around or driving to the next spot, at the end of the day, this is again going to be your decision to where, okay, well, I've got 20 different things from just showing 5 homes today. Man, Well, how long is it going to take me to record 20 reels? I mean, realistically, depending on how comfortable you are and how many times it takes you to do a take. But the thing is that I think what you'll find is that you know the content, you know the information, and you just need that little note to trigger, what you would do, because you've been in the business for 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 12, 15 years. So if you see this thing, you go, oh, well, I was out showing a client today this house, and this is the one thing, I tell you what, I would never buy a house if I saw this. And then you talk about that one thing you saw, and that's it. I mean, literally, you can do this in 30 to 60 seconds. It could take you. You'd be surprised how many reels you can record in an hour. And it's probably going to be, and if you do it like this, to where these are things that you're experiencing and walking through, and like the back of your hand, versus, okay, let me let me sit down and try to think of 20 different things to make a reel about. That's where a lot of people get stuck, and they don't know what to talk about. And then they start stumbling and fumbling because it's not fresh to them either. They're trying to regurgitate or think of something that they did a year ago or 2 years ago, as to where each and every day, if you took that extra time at the end of the day of when you have these times to do that. And the thing is like, if you're only working with one client right now too, and you show them 5 homes, and then that's it, that's all they're going to see for the next week, but you're able to get 10, 15, 20 reels out of that. Well, guess what? That could give you almost a month's worth of content. So you're not struggling and thinking about, what am I going to do tomorrow and the next day? You're just like, okay, I'm going to build that out, get that done, record that. I'm scheduled out, and the client doesn't want to see homes until the same time next week. Well, it's okay. All right. Well, I've got time to get all this done out there. And so these are the types of things that being out there, being active, working with the clients, every single thing you do throughout the day is opportunity for content. And if you just start making, start being mindful about that and documenting that along the way, or, like I said, if you do this on the fly, just record on a video and talk through that, then, or even if you're in the house, you tell the client, hey, don't mind me, I'm going to make a few videos while I'm here, and they're off in the bedroom, you're in the kitchen, you're like, look, I'm in this kitchen right now. I would never buy a home if I saw the garbage disposal on the left side. It's just something like, something like that. And you could document it that way, or you take a quick little video of it, 5 to 6 or 7 seconds, or do a couple of things. Then you go back at the end of the day and you've got your B-roll, right? And then you could still make the piece of content about it, and then overlay that little shot. So if you don't want to make a video while you're in there with the client, it's easy to just go, take a little 3, 4, 5 second clip of what you're talking about. And then at the end of the day, you have that as well, to where you can look at it and you can say, oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say about this kitchen sink. And then you're like, hey, by the way, was out working with the client today. And the good thing is that as you do that more and more, it also shows people that you're busy. It shows people that you are actually working with people. And so this is an opportunity, because people want to work with people that are the best, at what they do, and that they know are busy. I mean, I show in my presentations all the time emails, like people will say, hey, please let us know if you have time to talk to us. Thank you for thank you for all you do. Please let us know if, they're asking me, do I have time? You can see that plain as day in their emails and text whenever they reach out. Just like that guy, when I answered the phone, he literally said, oh, well, I wasn't expecting you to answer the phone. So, that's the thing is these, the people have these expectations, and, you show them that you're in the process, you are showing homes, you are selling homes, you are buying homes with clients right now in this market. That's the most important thing I think you can be doing right now, is showing and being the most visible agent. We've talked about this, is that the most visible agent's going to win in this market, period. Now, are you going to be visible on email, text, phone calls, video, postcards? How are you going to be visible? If you're sending out postcards, you probably need to send more postcards. If you're doing emails, more emails. If you're doing video, more videos. But showing people that you are working with clients, staying positive is something else that Carlos said at the beginning about ranting. And I will say this, that, there's a lot of things that I could rant about all day long, but I never do it. I never do it on video, on nothing, because it only serves one person, and that's me. And then after I do it, I feel like an idiot anyway. So why address those things? Why, it's just the same thing. If you get some stupid, nasty comment, that person doesn't know you. You don't know them. There's no point in engaging in that stuff, addressing it. It just doesn't, there's no point to it. And that's the thing, is that I would always think of things, how to keep that positive, not talking about, well, actually I was watching somebody's video. It came up in my feed. So I always click on, anytime somebody's video comes up in my feed, I'll click on it just to check it out. First thing they started out their story with was, I could not believe what this other agent was saying. This agent was saying that I overheard this agent's conversations, and they said this and this and this. And I was just like, what? I'm just like, what? I don't know. What's the point for that? I get turned off by negativity, so it's just not something, people hear enough negativity already. Be the positive person, be the solution person, be the person that people want to work with. And so that's what's going to come across there. And I think everyone has the opportunity. You just have to be very, very intentional about what it is you want to do. And this is where I've also said that you have to figure out what type of person you are. I know we attract a lot of video people, but at the same time, we attract a lot of people that are like, well, I want to do video, but I really hate doing video. And it's like, that's going to be very difficult for you to start. But are you a people person? Are you a reader or writer? Are you a phone call person? Are you a video person? And so if you are a phone call person or a reader and writer, like that's what Carlos is talking about today, emails can be very effective. If you've built up your database over the last 5, 10, 15 years, emails are still very effective. Postcards are still very effective. Maybe you sit down, instead of trying to force yourself onto being a video person, not saying that you can't overcome that. Look, I believe anybody can overcome anything they want to, but at the same time, if it's going to delay your progress as to where you could probably type out 10 emails in an hour because you just love to write, you got to think about these things. Well, shoot, if I could tell stories and write good copy through email, I could do that every day. But video, it's like you sit there for 2 hours going, oh, I don't want to get on video. Think about how to best use your time on that and how you can be more effective. And so, these are the types of things that I would challenge all of you to start thinking about, as far as, getting in the process, getting in the flow, making time for this. But again, even sitting down, even if I dedicate time to make content, it doesn't take me time, and it's not a lot of time. Once you get more proficient at it, that the compression of time it takes you to make something reduces significantly. Anything you become good at, just the same as showing a home, writing a contract, any of that stuff, now you write contracts in your sleep. When you wrote your first contract, you probably called somebody and they had to walk you through it for the next hour. And then you still didn't know how to do it the second or third time. So, but now we write them in our sleep. And the thing is, exactly what addendums to push to it and what to do from there. So all of this is relevant. And again, going back to this, what Carlos mentioned, very simple, beginning, middle, end, hook, story, offer, grab them. And this is the same on video as well. You got to have a hook, you got to have this little story, and then you got to have calls to action. And you want to move the needle. We talked about it last week, right? How many people have actually done call to actions? And we talked about Instagram calls to action and things like that. You'd be surprised what the feedback you'll get posting things, doing polls, getting engagement versus just posting market reports and that you sold this home and listed this home usually isn't going to govern the interaction. You have to ask, you have to inquire, you have to, ask for the business, ask for the opinion of people as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love all that. And one of the things that really resonated with me is when you were talking about, like, if you're doing a reel, it could also be a story. One of the things I've done in the past, and this could go vice versa as well, but since I know a lot of folks here doing videos, like you mentioned, one of the things that you can do is, if you're better at just kind of freestyle, if you get the topic in your mind and you can kind of just freestyle a 30-second reel or 45-second reel, you can just go to a place called rev.com. and transcribe that reel. And I think it's like $1 a minute, maybe less if you get an automated. It's very cheap though, because it's like 30 seconds, right? So what you can do is transcribe like 30 reels or 40 reels or whatever it might be, and those are little mini emails as well that you can use. Not every email has to be super long. In fact, shorter emails usually get more clicks. One of the things that I found though is if you can get people, like how he was talking about hook, story, offer, if you can get people hooked in, which is what you're doing in your reel, and give them a good story, which again is what you're kind of doing in your reel or something, some content in there. And then if your offer is in the reel to click a link or whatever, you can do the same thing in the email. Or you can also send them to go watch the complete video. You can kind of do a combo, kind of like what we were doing with the reference ads and stuff like that, with a text message referring to an email. You can say the same stuff in the reel, and then at the end you say, if you want to watch the full video where I break all this down, make sure you click here and check it out. And you can have that reel on your Instagram, so you send them from your email to your IG. And then there's a lot of cool ways that you can mix and match this stuff. So I just really wanted to kind of emphasize that, because if you're able to do one, you can do the other very easily, whether it's writing the copy and then recording, or recording, transcribing, and then putting the copy together. There's a few other questions that came in here that I wanted to go through, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, if I can, Carlos, let me address this one real quick. It says, do we need permission from a homeowner to use video of their home in our recordings? I mean, the thing is that I think if you make a 30-second reel on it's somebody's kitchen, not likely that you need permission. The likelihood that somebody will dig out the fact that that's their kitchen it's probably not likely. But the thing is that I think home tours, I know some agents will just book showings and then go and film the house. That is something I don't agree with. But I think permission, if you're going to walk a home inside of it, that I think that absolutely you should get permission from a listing agent. If you sit there and pulled out your phone and made a reel in the kitchen for 30 seconds, that I would not. Again, I mean, permission is always going to trump everything, but at the same time, I doubt there's any ethics violations. There's no rules really against that. Nobody's going to say, hey, I saw my homeowner's kitchen. I know that hood. I know that stove and that hood anywhere. You need to take that down. So that's not likely going to happen. But if you're in there, oh, here's the living room, here's the bathroom, here's the kitchen, and presenting it as your listing or something like that, I would not do that unless you had permission. But little bits and pieces. But again, if you filmed the stove or the sink or a crack in the wall, for anybody to pick that's going to be a needle in a haystack, as far as finding that out. So that I wouldn't be concerned about at all on there.
Got it. Yeah, I was going to defer to you on that one too, because I saw it come in. I was like, I have no idea. That'll be a Levi question. So, and then the other, Jennifer was asking about, sending through. Okay, why send through another system? An example, Active Campaign versus your CRM. So if you're CRM, here's the thing that I'm looking for. If you're already getting good delivery, if you can already deliver with your emails and it's getting into the inbox, that's already good. The main thing I'm looking at is, can you segment your list? If you can do that in the CRM, then you don't necessarily need an active campaign. That I'm just looking for the functionality part, right? Can you get your emails delivered, and then can you segment your list? And when I say segment, can you take we were talking about that cold re-engagement, that cold subscriber thing? Can you say, hey, I want to target only, or I want to email only people who have not opened my emails for the last 30 to 90 days? And if you can create those little sub lists or segmented lists, then 100% you should just use your CRM. No real reason to go to Active Campaign or anything else. But that's kind of the main thing you want to do, because if you can't segment, you should probably get Active Campaign or something, because that's where you can really start doing cool stuff. But as long as you can segment, and I guess create autoresponders, which I assume you can do. So then I see you saying yes, so that's perfect. So good. So that hopefully answers your question then. Next one, does it make a So does it make a difference if the email address in your contact list, do the ones in your address book get delivered more so than the email addresses that aren't? So when I'm talking about email campaigns, I'm looking at it as if someone saw some kind of advertisement, whether it's a flyer or an Instagram ad or whatever, or a YouTube ad, and then went to one of your web pages or landing pages, gave you their email address, and now they're in your database. Those are the types of emails that I prefer going after. If you want to load up some that you've just got like in your phone or your contact list and you've actually talked to these people, you can load it in there and then still mail them, and it should be fine because it's probably not going to be more than a couple hundred, I would assume, maybe less. If you're but if you're starting to basically purchase lists, which is I know usually where this ends up going, I don't know if that's where you were going, but usually that route is like, well, if I can add just people to the list, maybe I'll just buy a list of people and then upload it and blast it out. And whenever people start doing that, that's when I start seeing terrible response rates. You get like an open rate of like less than 1%. Your domain name can get, blacklisted essentially. Not the best approach. So whenever you're doing any kind of email marketing, my suggestion would be only market to people who've raised their hand, giving you their email address and said, yes, you can market to me, right? I wouldn't add people to the list unless they came here directly. So that would be my answer for that. And then how do you apply this structure for asking for a referral? Very simple. You would actually want to use it in your onboarding sequence after, some people in the e-commerce world call it like a post-purchase sequence. So let's say someone has completed the whole process of working with you. They've gotten into their house. If you're a loan officer, they've gotten the loan they want, whatever the end thing is. Once they've gotten that, that's why I like having that sequence of, some people call it post-purchase sequence. So you say, hey, now that you've gotten your new house, here's what you got to do next. You list out a few things. And then if at the end of these emails, you just want to incorporate an ask for a referral, you can absolutely do that, right? And that would be the place to insert it. It would be in that automated sequence. And now you don't have to worry about making sure you ask every single person because it's automated. You just set it up one time and it's done. So that's how I would do it and structure it in these email sequences. Francisco, it sounds like you love the conversation because it says this conversation is exactly what Gary Vee says in one of his books. It says to document your journey instead of trying to create it from scratch. 100%. Levi's on point with that. I was taking notes on my phone as he was talking. So hopefully you guys were too. Really good stuff. And then Coach Bill, I think Levi already answered this question. So if you guys have any last minute questions, just drop them in here. Otherwise, the final training that we'll be doing next week will be about videos and how to script your videos, right? Because I know a lot of you guys do videos, so we'll be going over explainer videos, landing page videos, and really how you can structure that. So just like how you have a formula for writing emails and ads and landing pages, I'm going to give you some formulas on how to structure your video. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, just drop it in here. But thank you guys for having me on again.
We're good. I've got a hard stop, Carlos. So I think that covers it for today. But yeah, I'm excited for next week. Clearly, let's get into some video. I love it. Although I always talk about not scripting videos, but
all good. Well, we can do. Yeah, no worries. It'll be like a structure, like your hook story.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a point for it. If you're going to run specific targeted ads, things like that. I mean, we have read scripts. We've had scripts written out for us from specific copywriters, and done that because we want to relay a very specific message. So, yep, we'll talk about that next week. Thanks for joining us today, Carlos, and we'll see you then. Bye, guys. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you're interested in partnering with us to access our YouTube course and coaching at no cost, schedule a call at passiveprospectingpartner.com.